What's happening, folks? Heading down to bike night tonight. Hopefully Loud and Dave will be showing up. As you can see, I'm not on my supermoto this evening. I am doing a HOG vlog, as you could call it. Riding my Harley Davidson today. And another gorgeous day. Probably like 90 degrees, something like that outside, but man, it feels good when you're moving. So, yeah, this past weekend was awesome. We had well, Saturday we had Jake the Garden Snake Motornosity meetup, and I don't know how many guys we had out there. Probably looked like about 60, I would say. And yeah, I mean, the weather turned out to be gorgeous. We had a good crowd show up, and luckily we didn't have a lot of people go down or anything like that. Yeah, just a lot of fun. And then Sunday we had Loud and Dave's ride, and that was a blast. We got rained on in the morning, which kind of pisses me off because I was riding down there and we started catching some rain, and I don't have the waterproof housing on my GoPro yet. I have one for just the camera itself, but I run the Sena Bluetooth backpack on my camera, so it hooks up to my Sena GoPro or a Bluetooth module on the other side of my helmet. And yeah, so I don't have the waterproof housing for that yet. I was going to order one, and they went out of stock in like a day or so. I imagine they're probably having, I don't know if it's production issues or what, but they just don't seem to have the availability. So, long story short, I end up getting to the ride, and my lens is full of water, and just, yeah, droplets all in there, and it was not good. So I tried to shoot a little bit, and then I went back and reviewed it, and it's just this cloud of moisture. But the ring around the edge of the lens, you can see crystal clear, just like the edges of whatever the hell we're doing, which is pretty much worthless, which sucks, because Sunday, man, we had a lot of fun. Went and hit a bunch of really cool jumps, and we went and found, well, we didn't find anything. I guess Dave knew where everything was. But even regardless of the weather, we just had a blast, man. A lot of wheelies, a lot of hooligan-ness, all that kind of crazy stuff. But, yep. So this weekend coming up, we got Rot Rally, which I'm kind of stoked about. I'll be working that. One of my friends owns a company doing these badass, it's a handheld cooler. It's called the Hooler. And dude, it's sweet. It's like, drop your beer in there. Your beer works on like bottles and cans and stuff. And like you drop it in there, and then you twist the top of it, and it seals. And it seals like, you put ice water in the bottom of it, and then it seals that ice water around your beer. And so like it cools it as you drink. It's badass. So a couple weekends ago, I was working Red Fest selling those, and then I'll be working this weekend for Rot Rally selling those things. So it's going to be a blast. Plus, you know, get to ride the Harley down there, and then just basically hang out with your buddies, drink beer, and yell at strangers. Which is kind of my specialty. I like yelling at strangers and all that kind of fun stuff. But man, I hope this weather stays like this. It is awesome. P. Terry's. Alright, let's see here. Yeah, so the bike I'm on right now is, man, I love this thing. It's a lot of fun. Which kind of brings me to another topic. I don't want to say pissed off, but man, it seems like everybody who's got a channel is always talking about, oh, well, this kind of bike's crappy. Why would anybody buy this bike? Or, you know, somebody's always saying, oh, leader bikes are too big, or you have to get a supermoto, or a starter bike should be this size. I mean, just all kinds of crap all the time. That's all you see is just recommendations on what bike you should get first, or I don't even know, just bikes in general, or why some bike is stupid. And it really comes up a lot at these bike nights that I go to, because I mean there's a pretty diverse crowd of bikes, anything from stretched Hayabusas to full bagged out Harleys, all the way to like old vintage, just I don't even know what you call it, just like vintage shit, things that you're like, how did that guy make it here without dying? And but there's all these guys always walking around like, oh yeah, well, but that looks just stupid, or why would somebody buy a bike and blah blah blah, or do that? And it doesn't make any sense to me. I thought, that's kind of like the whole gist of the motorcycle community, is kind of the freedom of it, and the ability to just not have to really give a shit. And yet, whenever you go to these kind of rides and stuff like that, everybody's always, oh, well, that, this and that, and that seems stupid. My bottom line is, if you want to do something, just fucking do it. Like this was the first bike I bought. When I was going to go buy a street bike, I mean, I've ridden dirt bikes and stuff like that before, but when it came time for me to go get a motorcycle, people are like, oh, well, you need to start small, and then when you get comfortable, trade it up, and all this and that. And I hate buying and selling things, like just with a passion. Hate having to go and like, oh yeah, well, buy this bike, and then after I get comfortable with it, I've got to put it on Craigslist and deal with finding somebody who wants to buy it, or I can take it to a dealership and have them lowball me on a, trade-in value. And so, I mean, it just, I don't like doing that. And I said, I went and shopped around, and I was originally looking at some Yamaha cruisers. Well, to back up, originally, I was looking at an HP4, which is the BMW S1000RR. Ooh, bump. S1000RR, but they're race spec. And I had all the financing in order. I was ready to pull the trigger, and I was like, all right, let me go get an insurance quote before we do all this. And thank God I did, because at the time I was 23 years old, so 23-year-old single white male renting an apartment. The insurance on that would have been about $1,000 a month. I would pay off the entire motorcycle in insurance in the first 12 months. And so I was talking to my insurance company, and they told me it was because the fatality rate on that bike is just, for my age group at least, is astronomically high. And so I decided, all right, well, I'll look at, sports cruisers. And I was looking at early sporty looking cruisers. And so I started looking, and I really like the Yamaha Strikers or the Raiders. And they were really good looking bikes. And I went to a local dealership to go test drive them. And they're like, oh, well, we don't really do test drives. We don't do this. We don't do that. And all right, whatever. And I wasn't really thinking about Harley Davidson. And I saw the V-Rods, and I really liked them. And I thought, well, I'll go see if they have any in stock at least, just kind of check out my options. So I go in there, and I tell them what I'm looking for, and they're like, yeah, well, we actually don't have any of those in stock. We do have some of just the V-Rods themselves. I really wanted the Vrod Muscle. And they're like, we have a V-Rod. You like to want to test drive? And I was like, man, that would be awesome. And I had some friends with me, and they're like, well, who all has licenses? And a couple of my friends raised their hand, like, well, everybody pick out a bike. So everybody picked out bikes, I mean, off the showroom floor, and they rolled them outside and took us on a 30-mile test drive. And tell you, man, you want to sell a bike, that's how you do it. Because I was going to look at bikes, and I came back talking numbers and had them order this one for me. And about 2 weeks later, they got it in. And man, I've loved it ever since. First year, I put about 12,000 miles on the thing. And I mean, it's a 1250 cc V-twin. I think it's 124 horse at the crank, something like that. It's a substantially powerful bike. But I had all kinds of people tell me that's just too big of a bike for a starter. Why would you spend that much on your first bike? And I mean, the bottom line is that's what I wanted to do. So I did it. I don't care if you don't like the style of it, or you thought it was a bad idea because your first bike was a Ninja 250 and you need to learn on something light. Yeah, I think you just do what you want, man. If you can afford to do it, or it's what you want, man, just do it. And I don't understand what all the heckling's about. Why you gotta judge everybody else? Like, man, I've seen some bikes, and granted, I don't think they're ugly, or I don't think they're awful, but it's definitely not anything that I would do to a bike. But you'll never hear me say, you know, well, that's stupid, unless that guy's being a douchebag. If you're being a douchebag, I'll tell you your bike's a piece of shit. And but yeah, you just don't be a douchebag and you're not gonna have any problems. But yeah, so with Rot Rally this week, I imagine, I don't know if there's gonna be a lot of bikes here at the bike night tonight, but as we get further on this week, I imagine, I think it kicks off Thursday. It runs Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I think they're not doing anything Sunday due to it being Father's Day. And but yeah, it is just going to be an outrageous number of motorcycles here in town. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So, you know, I've never actually lived in Austin a couple years. Never actually come and done the Rot Rally festivities. Mainly because you just get that many people together, and it gets just to be stressful as opposed to being fun. You're just constantly worried about, you know, somebody doing something stupid, or, I mean, you always have to worry about that anyway, but there we go. But yeah, just always having to worry about stuff, and then when there's that many bikes, man, I don't know. It's a lot of fun, but at the same time, it's just watching out for all that stuff and all the crap that goes on. It's kind of unnecessary stress. I much rather enjoy riding out in nice open roads and not being packed and surrounded by, you know, a bunch of sardines on the street. But either way, all right. Well, rolling up here to the bike night, gonna park this beast, and looks like they got all the doors shut down and stuff. I wonder if they're running AC now. But all right, cool. Well, you guys take it easy, and I'm gonna chill out, relax, and enjoy the evening.